AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
I'm going to download that today.
Oh, Cinderella. I mean, one of the great hair bands of the 80s. One of the great albums from one of the great hair bands of the 80s. That's Long Cold Winter from 88. That was back. Oh, yeah. Don't know what you got till it's gone. Don't know what I did that was so wrong. Boy, there's a litany here when you have politicians talking about, oh, but I want the Bears to stay. Oh, but I want Walmart to stay.
Yeah, Brandon Johnson yesterday was, in the sports radios making the round. He really thinks so highly of himself. Not Lightfoot, Dan, but Brandon Johnson, mayor-elect, he's going to get the Bearbacks. Just you wait and see.
The Bearbacks?
Inevitability. And I've asked, ownership, to give me an opportunity to be able to assess, and then, we can make a collective determination together. And the reason why I don't ever accept inevitability, I come from a family of 10. We had one bathroom. I am the baddest negotiator in the world. You hear me? And I mean bad in a good way. Yeah. I know how to leave the house clean. Now, the type of deals that I make to get there, don't judge a brother. You know what I'm saying? I will just say this. You always have to align yourself with the women in the home, right? So, I believe that I do have a unique set of skills to be able to bring people together, and I believe that's that's my expectation, at least in this current iteration. As far as long term, keeping the Bears in the city of Chicago is important. And, the field should not be confined to 8 games and hopefully a playoff game or 2. It's a beautiful campus, and it's an entire infrastructure that the city of Chicago has not fully tapped into. Mm-hmm. And so I want to make sure that the field, the museum, the entire campus is utilized in a way that speaks to our excellence, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to raise the entertainment tax on professional sports franchise tickets.
Can I just say, he is young, naive, and arrogant. And I don't want to hear that bathroom story one more time. I'm sick of it.
I do agree with him that Soldier Field should be utilized for more than just 8 home games. For example, a May Day rally. It'd be ideal. Brandon can bring all of his friends. Yeah. All right. Don't know what you got until it's gone, Chicago. For more on this. Boy, when Long Cold Winter came out, Scott Shellady still had a full head of hair. He was probably following the glam bands. Scott Shellady joins us now. Scott the Cow Guy. He's the market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1. And the Cow Guy close 1 to 1:30. Both programs on RFD-TV. Scott the Cow Guy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good morning, and congratulations on your recent election of your new mayor.
Oh, like you're not a Chicagoan anymore. You don't have any roots in Chicago. What's this your stuff? You're social distancing yourself from Chicago?
We have roots in Illinois now, but nothing in Chicago. And unfortunately, we still have roots in Illinois. We've got a family farm up by Galena over on the Mississippi River in the northwest corner of the state. And we're always worried about what's been happening with the state. Not as much Chicago, but man, they continue to impress. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, and then of course the Bears are gone. Brandon Johnson's protestations notwithstanding, and it just makes too much economic sense for them to not take advantage of the Arlington Park track, which they've property, which they've now
Purchase.
moved to secure. But also too, and we're seeing this around the country. Out of Chicago, and now dumbfounded residents who relied on Walmart are left to try to satiate their needs with the rhetoric of their local elected officials.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't get enough of the Chicago news down here, but I did see a clip because it does make the national news sometimes, and actually our local news here in Nashville. But I saw that he was blaming some of the violent crime on corporations that don't pay tax. I think I saw something like that.
Yeah.
He's going to come at this. He's going to come at those problems from the absolute wrong direction. It's going to be Clown World 2.0. You're going to continue to be surprised every day when you get out of bed when people make the decisions which you just don't think are possible to make. But I'm holding no hope that city's going to turn around anytime soon with somebody that's got the capability to make the decisions that guy's going to make, because it's not a tax problem at all. But they're going to turn it into that, and it's also going to be turned into a race problem, and neither one of those things are going to solve the problem.
Well, the DNC's coming here, now, and hotels are going to be filled, restaurants. What do you think's worse, the transaction tax he's proposing or the hotel and restaurant tax?
Well, I mean, I'm not even aware of the taxes he's proposing because I'm not up there. But I mean, both of those are still stupid, because if you're going to be taxed, I mean, look, that's not the answer. Is bringing more money in is not the answer. Look at how much money that the Chicago Teachers Union gets to teach our children. That's not the answer. The answer is you need a safe city, and I think that the DNC going to Chicago, I mean, maybe it's because that's the only place that they that would actually have the DNC, number one, because Chicago is desperate to have some people come in. But I know that there's too many stories I hear, because I still talk to people every day. I do a radio show here, I do 2 TV shows here, so we talk to a lot of folks in the markets, and a lot of times they're from New York or Chicago, and they just one after another will give me anecdotal evidence about how their wife won't go into the city unless she takes all of her jewelry off and only brings in one debit card. I mean, every single time and time again. And then I hear all the stories and they're not just stories, they're also on the news, of people getting killed in broad daylight in very nice parts of the city that you never used to think would be a problem. And I also then hear from proprietors that own businesses in Chicago, and they just don't know what to do. And I tell you, that problem is so big, it's not going to be handled in 8 to 12 years, but it's got to be handled by somebody that's got a better idea than just trying to raise taxes, because it's not always the money that's the problem, and it's definitely not the money that's the problem this time around for that city.
Well, give us your take, because we talked about this, and we have a lot of financially illiterate people in Chicago. Many of them are elected officials who think that the LaSalle Street tax, and by the way, this is popular in Brandon Johnson's inner circle, the LaSalle Street tax on financial transactions at the exchanges. If the exchanges move, that's just a handful of servers. What's the big deal? So that's the attitude that you hear from somebody. The trading floors are obsolete anyway, so what's the big deal if the CME group pulls up stakes? What would the implications for Chicago be if that came to pass?
Well, I mean, there's a little point of pride. I mean, the way that New York and Chicago kind of play out is that New York is an equity town, Chicago was a bond town and a commodity town, right? We trade bonds and commodities in Chicago, and New York trades equities. Now, we both do both, but generally speaking, that was the feeling in the business, and that was something that Chicago could hold its head up high. The Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the Chicago Board of Trade, both storied institutions with a lot of Chicago family money and Chicago families that were touched by those exchanges. I mean, I'm still in a bunch of groups for both of them on social media. But you're right. The mere fact that it's 25 servers that they just have to put down in Miami, which they've always talked about doing, and all they need is a reason. This guy, the mere fact that he can bring that up as an idea means he has absolutely no idea. And so it would be a sad day to have those two institutions not be the Chicago Board of Trade anymore, but maybe the Miami Board of Trade, because those are things that helped build that city. And it's unfortunate that a lot of that money is not around anymore, because you've been able to trade from different parts of the world and use those servers in Chicago. So a lot of that wealth has been disseminated throughout the country and the world. But it's still something that I think Chicagoans would like to hold dear to their heart about the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the Chicago Board of Trade. Those are venerable institutions that people know worldwide, and it would be a shame that they would leave because of a threat of something that there is never really a threat because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, but it's more than affinity, too. I mean, that in addition to the signal it sends to the financial community, wouldn't that potentially create a daisy chain effect for banking and insurance companies to follow suit?
Absolutely. And because, I mean, it's just the ignorance involved in actually proposing something like that means you just don't understand. And I see that coming out of our administration in Washington as well when they talk about some things that they clearly, like our energy policy, they clearly just don't understand it. So we're going to go to a transaction tax, a LaSalle tax, but that doesn't, you're exactly right. Those big insurance companies, why would they stick around and wait for the insurance companies to become under the crosshairs? Because, you know, I've always said this. The reason why you're going to see those real estate taxes continue to skyrocket in Chicago and Illinois is that's the last place of stored wealth in that country. They've taken everything else. And so they're going to be looking for where the money is, and they're going to try to come after it. And if that money is easily portable, then it's going to go. And if you're running a company, why would you wait until the crosshairs were pointing at you? You might want to get out now. And I totally would understand that.
Well, and also, too, there are large cash deposits held at Chicago banks thanks to the exchanges, and those would go away, too. I mean, so it's just so much. I mean, it's just so much bigger than people that are not interested in understanding don't understand, including the political class in Chicago.
Yes, I mean, but look, we're already being gutted from the inside out as well. Like Ken Griffin, he made the choice. I mean, that says something. Boeing, there's already people voting with their feet, and why would you want to continue to stoke that fire by raising more tax on those people that are already voting with their feet? I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me. You have to be coming up with ideas that are going to make people stay, and this is just another one that's going to make them leave faster. And look, when you have that downward death spiral where you have less and less people that have to pay more and more tax, it's hard to reverse that.
I wanted to get your take on the CPI number yesterday. So the headline was for the year, inflation's up 5%. It was better than expected. But there's some countervailing data, too. Core CPI was 5.6%, which was higher than expected. And then you have conflicting data. Some of the indexes that measure price increases have car prices going up. Some of them have them going down, but all of them still have food prices rising at 8.5%. So where are we in staving off stagflation and starting with high inflation?
Well, where we are is we're a bunch of job losses away from stagflation. Number one. Number two, to your point about CPI. Look, I don't care about house prices and I don't care about car prices. A lot of folks will wave the flag saying that is the reason why we've seen CPI come down a lot. Part of that, too, was oil, which, by the way, spiked back up because OPEC called Biden's bluff about whether he's going to refill the SPR, which I don't really think he ever was going to. He was just going to use a low SPR to beat us up over the head to buy electric cars, but that's a whole other call. But I'll tell you that there's an Adobe index. They did a study of over 1 trillion online transactions, 100 million different products. It took a lot of time going through this, and they found that the food prices online were up 10.3% year over year, higher than the government's 8.5%. But either way, what the problem here is that the government's not realizing that the things that you and I and Amy touch every day, food and fuel, are the things that are going up still. Mm-hmm. We don't buy a house every day. We don't buy a used car every day. All the things that are going down, I don't care. Mm-hmm. But the things that are going up, I do care about, and I touch them every day, and they're still going up. So that's a problem. That's going to continue to stress out the consumer. Now, after we had those bank wobbles 2 weeks ago, we have seen lending from banks absolutely crater. It's unbelievable. It's like the worst in history. So now you've got the bloodline, the oxygen of our supply chains, which is going to be cash, being cut off at these banks because they're like turtles. When they get nervous, they pull everything in. They're not going to be extending themselves. And so you have banks stopping lending, all the things that we touch every day going through the roof. We have record high credit card balance in total, over $1 trillion now. I mean, there's nothing here that I can find to go hide out in and say, I'm comfortable here, we'll weather the storm. It's not looking very good.
Something else, too, this is sort of an interesting indicator, perhaps, of something. It needs a bit more context, but the Outfit Bankrate did a survey of parents, parents of Gen Z children. How many parents are helping their Gen Z children financially, so 18 to 26-year-olds. 68% of parents of adult children have made or are currently making a financial sacrifice to help their kids financially. 43% have sacrificed some retirement savings, 51% some emergency savings, and so forth. Does that tell you something about the vitality of the job market and the financial independence of younger generations? Where we're seeing this sort of intergenerational subsidization.
I mean, does that smell like a great economy to you? I mean, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to understand that when things are going well, parents don't have to help their children like that. Janet Yellen, when things are really going well and the economy that you say is just fine, doesn't have 3 big bank failures. We're being gaslit from the top down, Dan and Amy, because they're telling us things are fine and they're not, and they know it. And when you've got a situation where you've got the head of the Treasury or even your president or even the Fed chair saying that things are just fine, but we're having bank failures, parents are having to help their children all the way to the age of 26. I mean, that doesn't smell good to me. And you don't have to be smart to understand that this doesn't make sense, but nobody's going to be willing to call it like it is.
Well,
to me, I don't see any good news right now with this economy at all.
Well, CNN, might I add, there's CNN breaking news. Grocery prices, they claim that American consumers are finally seeing a dip in grocery prices for the first time since 2020. And that's just all right. So meat, poultry, fish, and eggs index fell 1.4%.
It's less high. That's like me being less fat.
Right.
Okay.
I was going to say that, but I didn't because I love you. But yes, I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors. Like now we're celebrating this. It still doesn't matter. I pay twice as much as I used to at the grocery store.
Yeah, and they say that they say inflation's at 5%. I'll bet anybody to see if you can get in and out of Kroger for only 5% more than you paid last year. It's not possible.
So what does that mean what are you sort of, what evasive action are you taking for the rest of the year or the foreseeable future? What are you anticipating?
I think you got to be ready. If you want to be investing, you're going to get opportunities because we're going to have decent downdrafts. Equity prices are way overvalued. We've got some bank earnings going to start coming out tomorrow. You get an idea about loan loss reserves. That's easy for everybody to look to see what the banks think about the way forward. But all the smart CEOs in America are firing people. They're shedding jobs. Everybody's hunkering down because they're not believing the line of bull that we're getting fed from the top. And that is just, have cash available, be as nimble as possible. There's going to be opportunity. It doesn't have to be Armageddon. There's going to be opportunity. But don't believe the smoke and mirrors.
He is Scott the Cow Guy Shellady, market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1 p.m. And the Cow Guy Close right after that, 1 to 1:30 p.m., both at RFD-TV. Scott the Cow Guy, thanks as always.
All right, guys, have a great day.
Thanks, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
With the growing demand for mental health services, now's the perfect time to consider starting a business in the field of psychology. And one of the fastest growing career paths to this fulfilling work is life coaching. You're invited to the Essentials of Life Coaching seminar, presented by the American College of Life Coaching Professionals, Sunday, April 30th from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Chicago Marriott Schaumburg. Visit aclcp.net to reserve your seat today. aclcp.net. If you're a healthcare professional,